So I have this honkin' cloud drive that I keep just a whole bunch of junk from a long time ago on, and a whole bunch of junk from right about now on. And I found this little literary magazine, which me and my friend Julian and some of our other friends contributed to and me and my friend Julian put together in 1996. So I would have been a senior in high school. Took us a couple of years to put together, as I recall. I think we started in 10th grade, finished in the 12th grade, and we only ever put out one issue. But there's a poem on the front page. It was called Word. Word. We thought that was pretty cool back in 1996. There's a poem on the front page written by one of my friends who decided to go under the pseudonym Elaine for the purposes of publishing this poem. So even however many years later, from 1996 to 2016, I guess that's 20 years, right? Yeah. I'm not very good at math anymore. 20, yeah, anyway, so 20 years later, we're going to honor Elaine's pseudonym, and I'm going to read you her poem. Because I always liked this poem, especially the first line, and it always made sense to me. So her poem is, I fear the metaphor is running thin as the great sea churns uneasily in the moonlight, and your crisp fingers touch my breast like lightning on a diamond sky. Which is, I think, a pretty good poem for a 10th grader or 12th grader or whatever she was when she wrote it to write. But what I really like about that poem, I mean, your crisp fingers touch my breast is, that's kind of corny, but God, that first line, I fear the metaphor is running thin. I fear the metaphor is running thin. That's what I feel lately. And, if you saw my brain post recently about about the Mandela changes to the brain, and the relationship to dementia, other forms of mental illness, and the memory, and I'm questioning whether, to what degree the brain is really just a metaphor, which is, of course, not an original idea. I mean, people have been making that type of question about a lot of things for a long time. But for me, I feel like right now, and as always, the metaphor is running thin. And I think one of the things that's a metaphor is a lie. A lie is always a metaphor because it's a story that's there to explain something in the same way that you would explain something to a child. It's not exactly true. When you tell them, like what does an undertaker do? You say it in a nice way, and it's a lie. It's a little bit of a lie, but it's there as a metaphor to explain something to someone who you don't think can understand you, and you may very well be wrong, and often are in the case of children. They understand, of course, more than us, and I know I understood more than a lot of the adults around me when I was a kid. Some things. But yes, I fear the metaphor is running thin. I feel like the lies, I'll speak for myself. I'm not going to conscript you into my catharsis, but my lies that I've been telling myself have been running thin the last few years. I'm not suggesting everyone in the world stop drinking alcohol, but I think it was a really good idea for me to. And part of what was keeping me drinking in really harmful ways were lies I was telling myself, and I've learned that, and I don't even go to AA anymore, or NA or any of those programs. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with them. But one thing that NA says, before they even read the first step of surrendering to your powerless life and how you lost control and blah, 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 is they say, this is a program of complete honesty. I think that's a lot more important than anything else in the whole program. For me, is the idea that, okay, so forget NA and AA and alcoholism and all that specific stuff, but like I want my life to be a program of complete honesty, and I think it is becoming more and more that way. I've always been interested in that. I mean, even as a teenager, I realized that a secret, and they say that they do say this in those programs, and I've never even been to those programs, but a secret you keep is power that someone or something can or will hold against you. You know, I mean, when a politician has secrets, they are beholden to people who know about those secrets, and they have to kill those people who know the secrets, or pay them, or do, you know, give them jobs or whatever. I mean, when you have a secret, that is power that you are giving of your own, that you're giving to someone else. Whereas if you put everything else, put everything out in the open, then you have more power because nobody can do. It's like I mean, I figure that the NSA is, and maybe this is paranoid, but I doubt it. You know, that some agency has control of all the cameras on my computers and is recording. You know, every time I jerk off, there, or every time I like pick my nose, they're like recording that. But I don't care. You know, I invite them to release those pictures to the public anytime they want. It's not a secret. You know what I mean? Like me picking my nose or doing whatever, that's not a secret for me. It's not something that someone else can use to hold power over me because I'm not embarrassed about it. And it's not something that I need to keep private. Now, you know, whether we should have some privacy or not, whatever, that's a different issue. But when I think about this line that my friend Elaine wrote, I fear the metaphor is running thin. I feel like a lot of metaphors are running thin for me, and even, you know, the metaphors of life and death have run thin for me lately, and bizarrely, or maybe appropriately, it's because of the Mandela effect. You know, I mean, I do spend a lot of time thinking about a lot of things, but like there's definitely been an acceleration that's happened in my thinking since I was introduced to the Mandela effect, and you know, and I consider more and more things to be metaphors now than to be real. And I'm not completely because of the Mandela effect, but partially because of it. I'm not afraid of death anymore. I mean, I wasn't really all that afraid of death before, but I've become like even less concerned with death. You know, with the metaphor of death, because I'm more and more convinced that it's just a metaphor. You know what I mean? I mean, I want to be brief here, so I'm just going to say one or two more things. And so one is to just temper a little bit of this. So it's not just about this is not something that just started in the world. You know, people say there's a huge awakening happening and blah blah. Well, I agree with that. I think there is an acceleration of awakening happening right now. I do believe that's true. But I think that's always happening. You know, it's always been happening, and it'll always be happening. And, you know, so if you look at the other side, people of every age always think that the world is ending. You know, like I guess because I'm interested in, you know, aliens and the Mandela effect, YouTube thinks I'm interested in the apocalypse too. So every day I look at my suggested videos on YouTube, it's like, you know, August 14th, massive depopulation event is occurring. And then August 14th happens and that doesn't happen. And then it's like, August 16th, the world is going to end. You know, and then like August 16th comes and the world doesn't end. And then it'll be like, August 24th, you know, everyone's going to be rounded up into FEMA camps. And then like August 24th will come and no one gets rounded up into FEMA camps, you know. But the point is that everyone throughout history, and this is, I'm borrowing from one of my sisters, my brilliant sister, Suzanne, who says that every age, on YouTube, every week, every day, people think the world is going to end. Every time in history thought theirs was the end of the world. They thought theirs was the end of the ages, and they were all wrong. They were always wrong, because here we are, we're still here. You know, the end of the world is always feared and always predicted, but never happens. And I'm not saying that it will never happen, But let's say that, 100 ages appear and finally the quote unquote world ends. Well, what are the chances that you're alive at that one? It's pretty small. Even if the world does quote unquote end somehow, which I'm thinking maybe it won't actually. Because who are we? We're just one tiny little planet. Even if we nuclear annihilate ourselves, that's not the end of the world. That's just the end of some of the life on this planet. But anyway, in the other way, so the world, people always think the world is going to end, and they're always afraid of that. But there's always also what's going on now, which is not special to our time either. I'm saying is this awakening that's going on. I do believe there's an acceleration that's happening. Partially because of the Mandela effect and partially because of our ability to communicate with each other through the internet, and maybe partially because of experiments being done by CERN. That seems fairly likely to me. But, regardless of what acceleration is going on, awakening is always happening, just like fear of the end of the world is always happening. And I think that's not a very complete and total video, but it's just kind of my rambling thoughts on these metaphors that are running thin. I see more and more government lies metaphors running thin, and more of the unknown, of cryptozoology, that it has been unknown for so long that is just totally known now. It's totally known. I mean Bigfoot. Maybe 60 years ago it was a question, but there's tons of video of Bigfoot now. You know what I mean? They're not all fakes. So, Bigfoot and a whole bunch more weird shit is going on. You know what I mean? Bigfoot is it's like we're so past that. You know what I mean? Bigfoot is a gimme. You know what I mean? So the metaphor that of the lie that keeps that truth from being widespread it has run thin. You know what I mean? And so many more metaphors like the many NASA lies. Those metaphors have run thin, and I think we're going to see more and more of hi NASA, hi CIA, but of the government metaphors that are lies. I think we're going to see a lot of those run thin. And you know what? I think the people who work in those organizations know that and want it to happen. I don't think people are really evil, and I don't think people are really all that fundamentally different than each other. I do think there are a lot of differences, and I have met a few people in my life that I consider evil. But I think in general, the lies that are being kept by certain agencies, they know, they probably schedule when they're going to come out, when they're going to become publicly known. It's so far from trying to hide them forever. They're probably in their own way, in the way that they feel safe with, proactively trying to tell the truth, even though it's not the way that a lot of us would hope, some big floodgate, blah, blah, blah. But I think even those organizations in their own way want the same thing as everyone else. They want the truth to be revealed. Of course they do. They don't reveal the truth because they're trying to go gently on us. Now, a lot of people think that's totally misguided. And I'm not actually sure where I fall on that. But you see what I'm saying? I really think that I think that in almost every case, if not every case, everyone is doing the best thing that they can think of. And that includes everybody who works in these secret organizations. What they're doing, which a lot of us think is harmful, they're doing because they think is helpful. That doesn't resolve our issues with each other in terms of ideology, but we're all on the same page in that we are trying to help humanity in the way that we think is best. Anyway, Elaine says, I fear the metaphor is running thin, and I have to say I agree.